Good morning. Many people have always thought that actually Caribs does the rent setting in town. But the reality is that Caribs is just a property marketing company. In this case, what do? We meet a landlord who has completed constructing his apartment. Then we look at the apartment. We check out the landlord's rent rates or projected rent rates. Then we evaluate and look at them and say either is it high or is it low. Then we give our opinion. Sometimes the landlord will listen to us, sometimes they reject. That's why you will realize that we do not market everything in town. We only market properties that we have agreed with the landlords. If you get an apartment renting at 13,000, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is Caribs that sets the rent. All we do is to listen to the landlord and ask him what was your projected rent or how much are you charging. The landlord will tell us it's 15. We shall go look at the house and we tell them actually it's worth 15. Or we shall look at the house and tell them 15 is too high. Can you kindly revise downwards? Of course, there are also some scenarios where we also tell the landlord, this house you are renting at 8,000, but if you still do at 10,000, it can still work. But those are very rare occasions because in most cases you'll get the landlord have already set the prices a bit higher. Then we either come to an amicable price or we retain the landlord's price and we do the marketing. So people imagine that since we have now put this property on the public for people to know, people who didn't know, they imagine we are the one who brought the property and we are now setting the price. That's not our mandate. We do not set prices for the apartments. We only take what the landlord has and we market it. Now depending on if it meets the threshold or not. Some people always imagine that the new prices now currently in Kakamega have been brought up by Caribs, but that's not the reality. The prices, some of the apartments have existed long before Caribs. Caribs is just about 3 to 4 years old, but some of these apartments have been here more than 6 years, and the rents have been the same. So what do? We simply come to amplify, to help people know that this apartment exists. If you didn't know, now you can easily know. While some people, especially the people who have been in Kakamega for quite some time, will see as rent as being expensive, we also look at the other side of the coin. Someone is living in a 2-bedroom in Nairobi at 30,000. When he comes to Kakamega and finds an apartment almost equal at only 18,000, there's totally no big loss here. Someone is shifting from 30,000 to 18,000. Now we try, sometimes we get some of these apartments, let's say 1 bedroom, we get a landlord is charging 8,000. We assess the house, we say 8,000 is okay. But now for us to market your houses, you have to meet the minimum qualifications or minimum requirements by Caribs. What are these requirements? 1, full-time security, assurance of security to the tenants. Now, that's number 1. Number 2, full-time water. Sometimes you get a landlord who is depending on count water and he will tell you that water comes every Wednesday and Saturday. And for us, we tell this landlord, for us to market your property, you have to ensure the taps are running full time from Monday to Monday. So the landlord goes out of his way, decides to make maybe do a backup borehole, erect some tanks up. Now, once he has done that, he of course improves the security of the place, of course the parking, because we look at all those things. Now, once the landlord has provided all these amenities that we have requested, the landlord comes back to us and tells us, my house was 8,000 the way it was. I didn't have a lot of issues about security, about water, about what, it was 8,000. Now that you have asked me to provide all these things, and I have done that, kindly, I'm not going to rent my house at 8,000. I'm going to rent my house at 10,000. That's what happens. So you get some of the houses that were 8,000, they have gone to 10,000. Reason? Because we have put on trust the landlord to provide the amenities the qualities. Sometimes we even insist the landlord to put a Wi-Fi internet. Now you'll charge within that. Now you'll find most of the apartments that have already Wi-Fi connected and it's inclusive in rent, they're charging at 12,000. And actually those apartments are full. So even when a client comes or someone who is not interested actually comes to complain the rents are high, you have not actually looked at the parameters that we have gone through in setting the rent or in helping the landlord to come up with the rent. So we tell the landlord the rent was 8,000 before we put security, before we put water, before maybe you made some aesthetic value of the compound. Now you have added this one, all this. How do you recover it back? And that's when a landlord now says, let me add some 2,000. Then tell him, no problem. We shall explain to our clients the reason why this house is charging this much is because of this and this. But if as a tenant or a client of ours, you are looking for a house that is only 8,000, we give those options. Sometimes a landlord has put an apartment on the highway. Definitely that property was costing a little bit higher than an apartment that is far away from the highway. So the property that is charging that is far away from the highway is likely to be low, is likely to be cheaper. But now the tenant or the client wants a property that's on a highway but at a cheaper price. That one becomes a little bit difficult. Even on our side, it becomes difficult. We cannot even convince the landlord to bring down that price. Thank you.